Welcome to This Week in Washington for March the 23rd, 2012. I had an opportunity this week to spend several days with our colleagues in South Carolina at the annual South Carolina Transportation Conference. If you might recall, we had a board meeting held several years in conjunction with that association, and it was a good opportunity for me to see many of our older friends in the South Carolina Transit Association. This marked my 10th visit to the association during my time here in Washington. And August was there, and as you might expect, exercised a great deal of leadership throughout the conference. And I was fortunate to be joined by Joanne Hutchinson, who is the ambassador for the region, was also there to talk about some of the technical assistance that she had available. During my participation, I got to speak at the general session, and I participated in the Medicaid session, and the board was kind enough to invite me to talk to board members who were there from across the state to discuss their roles in supporting community and public transit. As in every other state, our colleagues in South Carolina are hard-pressed by state and local financial situations, as well as the challenge of facing a new transportation broker that has dramatically affected the Medicaid program throughout the state. In this case, I was also lucky enough to participate in a meeting held by the new broker, which is Logisticare, with transit and private providers to talk about ways they might work together better. During the general session, the Secretary of Transportation for South Carolina was there, and it's always good to know that a state transportation secretary will come to a meeting like that, and I think that was very good. He was very responsive, and I was very pleased with some of the positive things that were said about his personal commitment to public transit and in terms of the important work transit provides in meeting the medical needs of our older citizens. As a matter of fact, the South Carolina Department of Transportation has been very active in supporting community and public transit throughout the broker process, including the previous broker arrangements that was so difficult for our members and other public transit providers. So I think South Carolina remains on the cutting edge of trying to provide innovative services like many other states in these very difficult times. In Washington this week while I was away, we had several other discussions about the future of reauthorization. I'm afraid there isn't much new to report there other than the House of Representatives still hasn't yet determined exactly what it's going to do about reauthorization, whether they're going to have their own bill or borrow from the House, will borrow from the Senate, or something new from their own bill. But I think if you follow Fastmail and you follow our website, you'll notice that that situation seems to be changing every time and never seems to be making much progress. One of the things that has come up this week is that there will be another continuation or an extension of Safety Lou through the end of, before the end of March. In the House is saying as long as 90 days. Well, if they take them to a 90-day mark, it seems very unlikely that they're going to be able to work on the transportation bill before Congress adjourns for the election year and whatever else it's going to do between now and the election. So I think every day that it goes by that the House is unable to do anything, the more likely it is that we're going to get an extension and it's going to stay pretty much as it is. Among the other things that happened last week, I'm sure you may have noticed on television, the chairman of the Budget Committee, Representative Ryan, introduced his budget for the next federal fiscal year. His budget has been challenged by both Republicans and Democrats. Significantly, he calls for large degrees of across-the-board spending and a block grant for Medicaid, testing for Medicare, and a number of other program changes and deletions. In his proposed budget, there was no new revenue identified, So even if his budget was adopted with all the draconian cuts he's proposed, it would have no effect on the federal budget deficit, which would continue to be in the trillion-dollar zone. It's my guess, since many of these issues have been addressed in previous budget attempts, and considering the election, I think it highly unlikely that the Ryan budget is going to be adopted, certainly not adopted in the Senate, and I suspect that in an election year it's very unlikely to be adopted, so I think we can look forward to, again, some form of continuation as we move through the rest of this year toward the upcoming fall elections. Aside from our CTAA work, I think we made some significant progress on following up on some of the financing options we spoke about at the board meeting. I'm very pleased that we've pretty well concluded negotiations that would apply and would provide us with additional capital to loan in the Vanpool area of around 3.5%. We're working with one or two private commuter Vanpool operators to see how we could use that 3 and 3.5% to construct some good models that our members could use to provide employment transportation that would be self-sustaining. And I hope I should be able to put forward some announcements about that within the next several weeks. I think we're very close, and I think we're looking at trying to develop a package where a person who is running a Vanpool as part of a community transportation organization would probably have to have $50 to $60 per person to come out ahead, which means they could extend their transportation services without any additional cost to their grant funds and actually earning revenue that can be applied to the non-federal share portions of FTA grants. So there could be some really good news there in the next week or so. I'm also proceeding further along in the discussion of demand responsive services. Again, we've had good luck with trying to secure about 3.5% interest for these efforts. Also this week, we concluded a new arrangement with one of our truck sponsors, Meadowbrook Incorporated, that provides truck leasing and financing under our truck program. The bottom line of these negotiations, thanks to Bob Carlson and Don Browner and Talani Gerard on our staff, is that we're going to be able to take our existing portfolio of much more high-risk truckers and refinance their agreements for approximately 8.5%, which is a very good number in the trucking field, especially for higher risk truckers. This means that many of the truckers who are funded under this portion of our program will receive significant rebates or shorten their time to acquire a truck of their own. So this is very good news, and we're very, very fortunate to have worked this out in a way that means that some of the people that we're assisting will be much more profitable in the private sector, and that will allow us to move on to serving even more people. We also concluded an agreement with the Community Reinvestment Fund, who will be adding additional resources to our truck lending program. So in terms of our efforts to spur different kinds of jobs in rural America, I look forward to being able to talk to you shortly about creating more job opportunities for people in the communities that many of our community transportation providers call home. At our next follow-up next week, I hope to have a good report to you about where we are on Expo, the latest things that we have planned, and any news relative to that event. So until then, I hope you'll have a good weekend, and I'll look forward to talking to you soon. And if you have any questions, please give me an email or a call. I'm still in the same place. Thanks, have a great weekend, and goodbye for now.